Some of you may remember this if you are of certain age. Following an example that was seen in the United States of America, in Australia in the late 60s, passed a law, and that law was state laws, I believe, and a national law, allowing that the states could compulsorily go and, without asking, requiring permission, to go and take up land, private land from owners, in order to make those highways that we have today to travel from state to state. And that was required in order to travel the nation. Now, the government saw what was happening overseas and actually did the same thing. So they were planning for a road network that would join the states, allow transportation of goods, the services, the post office, and provide a united highway system throughout this land. And that actually benefits society as a whole. Now, to build these massive roads, the government had to draw lines in existing maps. They had to go out and inevitably go and take up private farms, family homes, neighborhoods and businesses. Some of them were affected and therefore caused an upset in society. The people, some of them that were affected, had no real say in the matter. They had to give out the land and the price that the government was selling, that was actually buying. Now, if the government focused on the individual rather than the collective good, as we say, a single farmer that refused to sell could stop the whole plan. Isn't that right? Therefore, the needs of the many overruled the needs of the individual. More recently, other big projects, you may be aware of them, like the WestConnex, enhancing our motorways, and also the new Sydney airport that requires land not only to build the airport, but also to get the cargo there and the trains to get there, are recent examples of the same thing. Same thing happened. Common benefit overrules the benefit of the individual. Now, earthly governments operate this way, and let's say they operate this way when they operate well, because we know that earthly governments don't always operate properly. But they always give emphasis on the collective good. What is best overall? They don't check specifically each one of us. And therefore, they do not focus on my needs, what I want, or what you necessarily want. It's what is best for the mass. All the laws are such examples. Traffic laws, for example. Every law that's passed on, it doesn't say, for example, that this applies to everyone but George, for example. No, it applies to everyone. New laws are going to be applied soon, I hear. Electric bicycles are going to not be able to go as fast, things like that. Now, you can't say that my bicycle will be exempt. No. No law reads that this applies to everyone except you. And we understand that in many cases, there will be some sort of a negative effect on some few people. Those who have to sell their house. But it's necessary in order to provide for the many. Collective good. Now, let's put a big but here. There's a big difference. And in today's message, we will see that God's kingdom, in His rulership, the principle is very different. God is able to work differently. I'm not saying that you're allowed to, speed in heaven or do anything you want, but rather, unlike earthly governments, God is able where we are unable. He designs and works towards the well-being of the individual. and during his ministry, Jesus Christ said several things which were unheard of. Things like, "For it's the one who is the least amongst you who is the greatest." Have you ever heard any earthly government say things like that? It never happens. So as we're opening chapter 15 of the Gospel of Luke, we find Jesus responding to what seems to be a theme with the Pharisees. Something that we would do very often. They complained about Jesus spending time with sinners. And the whole chapter is a reply that Jesus does. He speaks about loss and about the recovery and the rejoicing by giving three parables. The parable of the lost sheep in verses 1 to 7. The parable of the lost coin in verse 8 and 10. And the parable of the lost son, or the parable of the prodigal son, as you may have heard it, verses 11 to 32. And all these are examples of how God treats an individual, not the mass, an individual who is lost. So today we will cover the first two of the three parables, and the next time we will go into what's probably the most well-known parable, the parable of the prodigal son. But as we are reading through these, I want you to please note that in all of them, because it's one big reply, there's a common theme. We represent the item that is lost. And the seeker is God, who does not only work and effort to find the lost, but the common theme is that when the lost is found, he rejoices greatly when we are recovered. You should also know that although it is natural for us today to identify and to focus with the one who is lost, the emphasis of Jesus' reply and on the text is on the actions taken by the individual who has lost the item, what he does, and then how they rejoice after the item is recovered. So basically the focus is on God. This whole chapter. The first parable speaks about a shepherd who has lost one sheep out of a herd of 100, an individual within the common, within the group. The second speaks about a woman who has lost one precious coin, and she had 10. And the third, which we'll cover next time, gives us insight into a father who receives back his once lost son. And all these persons represent God. God, who is the focus of this chapter, and this is what we need to focus upon. And in all three parables, he highlights how God values the individual, unlike any government here on earth. How God cares, acts for the well-being of George, Julie, Mary, your name placed here. We the lost, we are also in the parables, yes, but the emphasis and the focus is not on us. It's actually placed on God. So with this in mind, let us read the first two parables. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and go home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep." I tell you that in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin." In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Now, I don't know about you, but I tend to get frustrated when I misplace or lose things. Is it only me? And you know, it's worse when you're looking for something when you really need it and you actually find it the next day when you don't need it. That makes you more annoyed. We recently moved house. And as you know, it's a lot of packaging and things like that. And it's very hard to find things within all those boxes, even the labeled ones. And by the way, we are still looking for that cheese grinder. We've opened everything. We don't know, like out of everything, we're missing the cheese grinder. Anyway, it tests your patience, doesn't it? However, in my case, and in cases like this, really we're talking about an inconvenience, obviously. Nothing compared with the loss of something that is dear and precious. So what is Jesus doing here? Here in the whole chapter 15, he's explaining to us why is it that he's spending so much time with the lost sinner. Something that the Pharisees all grumbled about. Do you know what it is to lose something very precious to you? Think about that question. Something very precious to you. Well, we've all lost in one way or another. Spiritually, we've lost what God had originally designed for us. Innocence, lost in the Garden of Eden. You see, God's original plan for us to live in that place in perfect harmony, lost. He would provide for all our needs there. We were to just enjoy His provision and fellowship, lost at least what originally was. But we've messed up. We were all expelled from that place. You could say it was our forefathers, but we've also sinned. Peace and relationship with God, our Creator, lost. The reality that we became lost is so evident when you realize that this life is hard. We struggle. This world is unjust, sometimes cruel. People say, I did not deserve to have this happen to me. Have you heard that? Our sin has become the reason that we have lost. It became a curse. And all the insurance you can buy in this world cannot protect you. Let not the advertisement fool you. Certainly, it's a good thing to insure your car and your valuables, if you can, for liability and damages, but this will not prevent you from going through a difficulty or a crash, for example, or the recovery from an injury. So many other unfortunate sufferings we can experience. And as you start reading through the Bible and contemplating what falling from grace really means in your life, and it impacts your life daily, the hardships, the pain, eternity, you may start feeling lost. You may think, I'm robbed by that serpent that lied to me and continues to lie to me daily. And yet again, you may think, he didn't lie to me specifically in the Garden of Eden, but he has definitely lied to you this week. Hasn't he? And hopefully you're able to see that it is you in these parables who is described as valuable and lost. You see, we are the lost sheep. We are the precious coin, and we are the prodigal son. But again, kindly be reminded that in this chapter, although this chapter includes you, this chapter is all about how God feels about you and what he does to redeem you. This chapter is describing God's plan. His loss, not ours. His actions, his searching, and his rejoicing when you're redeemed. So let me rephrase this question. Do you know what it is to lose someone very precious to you? Mankind is God's creation, you see, which was wonderfully and purposely made. He created us in love. He created you intentionally for having a relationship with him. And that both sides, both God and man, would rejoice with each other. And then came loss. We instigated loss. We brought loss through sin. Sin brought separation. And we're all designed, it could be in your DNA, you could say, to have a dependency on God and seeking God and having fellowship with God. And without him, your life will never be full, regardless what else you have. It cannot be filled up with any other substance, that peace inside of you. So let me ask you this. Have you ever read this chapter and considered how God felt when he lost Adam and Eve? How many times have you read through Genesis and you identify with yourself being lost? Have you ever felt what God felt? Sure, we made a mess of things. We became lost. But does God really care? How does he feel? Was he simply judging Adam and Eve when he expelled them from his presence in the garden? Wasn't his heart also broken? What does the Bible teach us about the cost he had to pay to recover us? What about Easter? What about giving his son on the cross? We so easily, you see, have this tendency to make us the center of everything. And therefore, everything we read, we associate it with us being the center. But what about God? Because these passages reveals his intentions and his heart for you, his loss, and what he actually had to do to find the lost sheep. The lost sheep that, if wandered in the wilderness, would have perished. The silver coin, the coin of such value. And when the prodigal son returned, how does the father respond? What is his reaction? Is he like, I told you so? Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? Well, let me tell you, I have no experience of being a shepherd. And I wondered if all shepherds would do the same thing. But apparently it is true. Because you see, although initially it seems very risky to leave 99 in order to pursue the one, when I was looking into this, every shepherd in the evening would count his flock. And if one was missing, he would leave the rest in safety in order to go out and seek the one which went astray, even at night, even when danger is around. Imagine a lifeguard in Sydney, in a crowded beach. The water is busy. Dozens of swimmers, let's say 99, 100, are swimming, splashing, floating on their boards. The lifeguard, he scans and checks them all, counting the heads. They're all there. Everything looks normal until the time it doesn't. A woman comes running to the tower, screaming, crying, "My son, my son!" Where is he? The lifeguard looks again. Now 99 heads. One is missing. Yet everybody else is safe. 99 is safe. But one small boy is missing. What does he do? The rips are strong and the waves are high. And every time he goes into the water, he also has a risk. He's prone to exhaustion, injury, even drowning himself. Yet as we know and we all appreciate, the lifeguard does not focus on the 99, but he puts himself in risk to go and find for the child. He doesn't say to himself, well, most of them are okay. Majority is fine. You see, even losing one person is unacceptable. Do you see how God sees that in us? So he dives into the surf and swims against the current to find and save the one, the only one, who was swept away. And no one standing on that beach would ever dare to accuse him that he left the 99 to go and find the one. And the more I thought about it, the more I looked, the more I realized that this is what all search and rescue teams do. You see, firefighters go into the burning building to save the last member of the house. Sometimes it's even a pet. Mountain rescuers will go out in the blizzard to search for the last hiker that didn't make it to the camp. And military combat medics would go out in the line of fire to attend and save the wounded soldier. Maybe it's only one. Maybe you remember a few years ago that movie it's called Hacksaw Ridge with Desmond Doss. He went out and saved 75 soldiers that way. The realization of what Jesus did for us actually unlocks what we celebrate on Christmas. You see, Jesus doesn't just give out parables. He lives them. He is in them. He is the one in the parable looking for the lost. He said, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. All first responders, you see, have to get to grip with the risk that they will inevitably one day face in danger, trying to rescue someone. But for Jesus, it was much more than a risk. You see, his mission was to come and lay down his life deliberately, because there was no other way to save the lost. And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me! I have found my lost sheep. For some it may be seeming foolish that the shepherd would leave 99 sheep to go and just search for one. But the shepherd knows that the 99 are left in safety, whereas the lost sheep is currently in danger. Each of his sheep has a value. He's given them names. He knows them. So he searches with diligence to find the one which is lost until it's recovered. And his joy cannot be contained when he carries it home. Rejoice with me. Share in my joy, because I have found my lost sheep. There's more joy in heaven for one sinner who repents and is brought to safety over 99 who are safe and need no saving. In the same way, as the shepherd rejoices about finding the lost sheep, the parable of the woman who searches for the lost coin shows you the value you have for God. You know, silver is a precious metal, and the meaning of this parable would have been obvious to any listener. However, there is more to the parable than what seemed on the surface. Beside the obvious value of the coin, it was a custom at the time for a young woman to receive 10 silver coins as a wedding gift. Besides the monetary value of these coins also had a sentimental value, similar to what we have in our wedding ring. This could be silver, this could be gold, but it means more to you than just the silver and the gold. To those who had the 10 coins, even if losing one out of 10, you still have 9, but that one that is lost is still distressing, because each coin has a great value for that woman, and it surpasses the value of the silver itself. It is the gift that was lost. You cannot replace a silver coin with a new one. This woman did have 9 coins, but she would not rest until she retrieved the last one that was lost. And again, like the shepherd, what does she do? Shares her joy with friends and neighbors that could relate and rejoice with her, knowing that this coin really meant something for her, was so valuable for her. If you have not yet evidently seen the joy that's actually expressed each time a precious individual is found, then let us look a bit more closely to this verse. In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. You see, some translations say there's rejoicing before the angels of God. And the original Greek text says, enώπιον των αγγέλων του Θεού, which literally means in front of the angels of God. You see, the rejoicing in heaven for every sinner who repents is not only done by the angels, but is done in the presence, in front of the angels. So the question is, who is he who is in the presence of the angels, who the angels see, who the angels delight in? Do you see what is happening here, what Jesus is saying? Jesus is saying that God the Father and Jesus the Son and God the Holy Spirit personally rejoice when the lost is found. And that rejoicing is evident to the angels who witness this and partake. And they say, join me in this rejoicing because my lost sheep has been found. Can you imagine God shouting, "Rejoice with me, for I found my lost child," which will be seen more clearly in the parable of the lost son. By complaining, you see, the Pharisees and the scribes showed their disapproval of Jesus' actions. They went to Jesus, they searched for him to argue and complain. In contrast, Jesus searched and made time for the sinners, the lost. Those of us who have accepted Jesus Christ and received eternal life know that we were lost. And Jesus went to the lost not to judge them, not to argue with them, but to share with them the good news that God loves them, that the Father's heart aches for their return. Come home before your lifestyle and your sinful desires lead you to perish, both physically and spiritually. You see, this chapter stands out as a great insight in God's heart and his desires and his plan for us. The lengths that he would go to come and rescue us the lost. Picture yourself as the lost sheep, as the valuable coin, and then look at the heart of the Father and realize how he reacts when you're found and recovered, how he feels about you. You see, God does not operate like earthly governments. He will not make a rule and a law for the majority, but he treats everyone individually, equally, because you're not treated as a percentage, you see. He knows you by name. You're not one in a billion. You're not one in a million. You're one in one. He knows you by name. He knows the days of your life and the hairs on your head, because you have been created in love. And the day that you were lost, his heart ached. Jesus said, "I will not rejoice and drink of this cup until you're all with me in heaven." And today, Jesus is still looking for lost, isn't he? Lost who are around us. You see, Jesus had to come in this earth because this is where you find the lost. Same way that the firefighter would go into the fire. Because that's where the lost is, the one in danger. Jesus had to come in this earth because this is where the lost is. As we will continue next time, in chapter 15, remember that although you find yourself in these examples, these parables, chapter 15 is all about God's intentions for you and his heart. And what we need to think about is, how do we respond to those? Are we still lost? Well, he's searching for you. Put up your hand as the person who is swimming and in danger. He will rescue you. Are you rescued? Give him his thanks that he deserves. May God bless you all today.